certainly when you fire a coach, you always anticipate there will be attrition on your current roster and in your recruiting class. That feels like an inevitability regardless of the program or the situation. No one better to talk to than Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, joins us now. Shady, how are you, man?
I'm doing well. It's only been less than 48 hours. I feel like it's been a month, and we have more than that to go. So, been busy, but I guess it's fun to cover.
Yeah.
I enjoy it.
Has there been or what has been the reaction in recruiting circles to the Brian Kelly news?
Yeah, I mean, you've talked about it, but you look at, like, I'll compare it to Penn State, for instance, Matt, and when James Franklin got let go, my Hayes Fawcett, Louisiana native, and the Rivals sort of expert on breaking recruiting news nationally, it was pinging about every 5 minutes with someone decommitting from Penn State. And when this has happened with Brian Kelly, no one has decommitted. And they have 17 commits, right? 16 commits going. I'll get to that in a second, but 16 commits were entering the weekend and 17 now, but one for next year, Peyton Houston. So you've got 17, 18 kids total there. None of them, all of them stuck. Why? Well, one, I think when you deal with Louisiana, obviously, and the majority of these kids are from Louisiana, that in border states, that they're committing to LSU for LSU. And the move to put Frank as the interim head coach comes with a lot of different, you could put together a long list of like why it makes sense to do that and stabilize things for a variety of ways. And one is in recruiting. Like, people will talk about Brian Kelly and how involved was he in recruiting or wasn't involved to any large degree. And I've kind of said, all right, well, step back for a second. And that wasn't an expectation, right? It was understood that in this modern era of having a GM that would handle the NIL and rev share and everything else in, hires, stuff like that. And that's Austin Thomas. And then you've got the recruiting side, which position coaches and a long kind of growing list for every college out there, staff who do that, beyond the on-field coaches. And then you've got a guy like Frank who, he wasn't, I don't know, he's got a bunch of titles. I'm sure you just throw recruiting coordinator in there. He's held it a few times, but is someone who knows everyone on the team, all their parents, everyone in recruiting. So you don't have that kind of Penn State feel to it. It's almost like, hey, look, they may not lose a commit. And if they do, maybe it's not a Louisiana kid and it's not surprising, but for a fact that if you put Frank Wilson in charge of the program for another month plus, that you don't have to worry too much about recruiting. So all of that to say that I would have been more surprised if kids just started decommitting, and that wasn't the case. And I'll end it by saying that they then had a commitment on Monday with no head coach, but they brought in Kervin Johnson Jr. out of Tioga, and guy who leads the state right now as a senior in receiving yards, receiving touchdowns. He's got great size and has been that late riser. We see it every year in Louisiana, and certainly with wide receivers, they're kind of grow on trees down here and ultimately end up NFL guys. And sometimes you didn't even see it coming in high school. And that's where guys like him fit in. So not surprising at all, and really not surprising at all that they then go out and get a commitment.
I want to come back to Kervin Johnson in a second, though, but stick on Frank for a moment. Clearly, Shea, one of the reasons that he was the associate head coach, but I think the hope is that he can keep the roster and the recruiting class together for the duration of this season. Could you elaborate a little bit more on Frank's ability to do that and how they're expecting that to play out over the next month?
I just think that, go back, I guess we call it the modern era, right, of recruiting. And we can just say start in like 2000 and go to now. So 25 years or so. There aren't many coaches out there who have stayed in college, who have been at numerous places that are as well known as Frank Wilson. Bruce Feldman wrote a book about Frank Wilson and that Ole Miss staff, Meat Market, which is probably one of the most, certainly not many books about recruiting. I probably should just quit my job and write books about recruiting. But Bruce, that whole thing was one of my favorite kind of insights into how recruiting really worked. And Frank was front and center in that book. And you can go back to that book, like the late Joe McKnight and everyone before then. Like, you've got a guy who for 20 years more has been at the forefront of recruiting 5-stars. And then the relationships he's got with former players is so strong, because not just high school recruiting, but when they get on the team, your head coach is not someone who can sit there and have a rapport with everyone on the team. But Frank's the type that does, by and large. So I think that when you look at naming an interim, it makes complete sense to say Frank Wilson's on our staff, go for it, because nearly everyone on the team and their parents and everybody else have a relationship with Frank. They can text him, call him, whatever it might be, and they get things handled. And I think when you look at that, and there is a reality that 30-day window and everyone can enter the portal during the season, they did away with that. I don't think some people missed that because they weren't expecting LSU
I missed
LSU
that.
fans to have to actually pay attention to that this year. But because of that, you don't have anyone leaving right away. But if you don't have someone like Frank there, it doesn't get stabilized in the next month to where you have this mass exodus the second that they are allowed to leave. And I think you can feel that way now because you're seeing, hey, what he's done in recruiting. They did not have a mass exodus with the recruiting class, so I wouldn't expect that to be the case on the team. It would be more of, hey, who is the new coach coming in or whatever it might be. And it's sort of natural attrition in a way that the blow is lessened. So, it becomes so much less of a blow to you when you're in Louisiana. Most of your kids are from here, and you are a top 5 program in college football, that you can make a staff transition like this and not have to worry about the entire roster falling apart and not bringing in, the high school recruits that you wanted.
Yeah. We'll get right back to the video, but thrilled to welcome Our Lady of the Lake to AFR LSU. As the championship health partner of LSU athletics, the physicians at Our Lady of the Lake serve the champions on the field in the purple and gold, but that same level of care is available to you and your family. I've been a proud supporter of Our Lady of the Lake my entire life, from volunteering at the Ronald McDonald Playroom as a high schooler to helping so many of the fundraising efforts for the standalone Children's Hospital, to my own son being a patient now at that very Children's Hospital, and my primary care physician, Dr. Kurt Chastain, at Our Lady of the Lake Men's Health Group. Our Lady of the Lake has been a part of my medical journey my entire life, and you can learn more as well. Our Lady of the Lake and LSU. Together, we roar. Just to clarify, even though that 30-day window no longer exists, players could still opt out of the remainder of the season if they chose to, and no one has chosen to do that. So it's important, but you're right about the 30-day window. Let me ask specifically about Lamar Brown, because I know that's a giant concern that a lot of people have. He was one of the ones that tweeted, thank you for being the first coach to believe in me, sort of a supportive tweet for Brian Kelly. Can you tell us where things stand there with Lamar Brown, considering he picked LSU over A&M and he was there front and center watching A&M really handle LSU Saturday night?
I'd be more worried about that if they had not made a change like this. And I don't even know how worried I was before that, like Saturday night. Obviously, look, A&M was the other school involved here, but this is a Baton Rouge kid, and I've got to remove myself from that mentality of the old school Bama days where it felt like every U-High kid was just going to Bama. And it was like, well, these kids go to school on campus already. They want to do something new, and this program is in a better place than you are right now. Even with A&M doing well this year, I think that you can argue LSU is still the top school of the two. So, and it's a sound argument. I don't think that my panic meter on a Lamar Brown type is not very high right now. And I remember when Lamar committed over the summer, this is a guy, Frank, back in middle school for Lamar, was having him at McNeese's camp. So when he was the head coach there, so their relationship goes back a long way. And I think one thing people need to remember, I have to remind myself of this often, just because it's changed recruiting in a way, of NIL and rev share. Like, guys, every guy in the class is going to have an NIL rev share agreement in place. And that goes into play whenever they commit to a college. And I think we're seeing a lot fewer decommits, whether you have a coaching change or not. it's a lot tougher to flip guys now, just because the reality of if they're in a spot where they've already, feel comfortable with everything, and it's not just a verbal commitment, but it's more than that, commitment wise, that guys just sort of don't just say, hey, look, I'm reopening my process and exploring options. It just doesn't happen a ton. And because of that, I just don't, unless Lamar Brown is starting to visit A&M for games and all of that, I've always just said I think that he winds up at LSU.
Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger, talking about the recruiting implications of Brian Kelly's firing. You mentioned Kervin Johnson, who, interestingly enough, LSU landed a commit after Brian Kelly was fired. Fill in the deets here, Shea, about who Kervin Johnson is and how they made this happen.
Kervin committed to Louisiana Tech in September, so kind of right as his senior year began. And this is someone they had been really watching closely because he was, as I noted, leading the state in receiving touchdowns. And I think he's right at about 1,000 yards. I know he has 14 touchdowns. So guys on 40-something catches, you're averaging 25 yards a catch. And also, really, I mean, this is the impressive, even just as impressive part. 6 foot, a little bit north, Matt, of 6'2" as a senior in high school, already north of 200 pounds, really good measurables, has the track background, everything else that you want to see kind of from a dual sport, multi-sport kid coming out of Central Louisiana. And they've got 2 commits, right, at receiver, now 3, but Jabari Mack out of Destrehan, Kenny Darby out of Airline. Mack's the highest ranked of them all. Like, he's been a top 50 prospect since he kind of came onto the scene. He's 6 foot, 200 probably. And Kenny Darby out of Airline led the state in receiving last year. He's 6 foot, in that 180 something range. So Kervin Johnson being 6'2" and north of 200 gives you that completely different mold of receiver. It's the more of a bigger body, taller, and he's quite productive. So this was sort of a no-brainer. And if it weren't in Louisiana, I think he would have been picking up offers left and right. But it's one of those things when LSU makes a move on you and has found you in Sinlaw at a school like that at Tioga, that everyone else just sort of says nice grab by LSU there and doesn't even try to get in the mix. So I saw even he'd taken a photo with DJ Chark on the sidelines this past weekend, and he had a little bit of size on DJ, who obviously ain't too shabby from LSU to the NFL and as a prospect coming out of that area. So this is one that I'd expect his recruiting ranking does not look the same as it does now when the next wave of updates come in the next month or so.
He's Shea Dixon on 3, the Bengal Tiger. Make sure you catch him there and get him at Shea Dixon. Always appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Thanks, Matt.
All right, man. Be well. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Please leave your comments. I love to interact. And be sure to hit the red subscribe button below.